Okay, so I hereby call to order the May 14th, 2019 Wellington Board of Education regular meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. We welcome people from the audience to speak. If you have any point that you need to take note of, we will give you another opportunity at the end of the meeting if you're not interested now. Okay, so moving on to our presentation by HMS Principal Nick Ray.
All right, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the process that we undertook recently to reevaluate our district-wide assessment tools. So I'm just going to give you a background. There's a great book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. I'm sure some of us have read it. So I always like to start my presentations with
Is it
why.
the one that did the TED Talk?
Yeah, it's the same guy on the TED Talk.
Okay.
Exactly, yep. So why? Why are we here? So we want to make sure our instructional decisions are based on data that's aligned to our curriculum, to the current best practices, and to the Common Core. We're in a great position now with our curriculum. We've done a lot of curricular improvements, and now we're to that point where we need to make sure our assessments align with all of that. And we, at HMS, do not have a math interventionist, and so we need some further materials to help over there with math interventions. I'm sure Mr. Choi could agree to that. So I want to just give you some background that many of us feel, including myself, that STAR is not meeting our needs in the following areas. Not connected to the standards, meaning there's low reliability, and you can only go down to the domain. You can't go down to the exact standard that a student might be struggling with. So it's very hard to have that inform your instruction directly as a teacher to say that this student needs this standard.
STAR is the assessment tool we are currently using.
Thank you. The instructional tools need teachers to facilitate and direct the students. The students cannot self-direct. Questions are not what we call SBAC-like in the STAR assessment. And the data is difficult to translate into planning for student success, as I just mentioned. So last school year, we tried to help the situation by participating in some professional learning with Renaissance Learning, who makes that STAR program. And this only confirmed our previous beliefs about the STAR program. So what are we talking about? As Phil mentioned, we're talking about STAR. So it's one of the tools that we currently use for our interim assessments. And we try to use our interim assessments to progress monitor, plan lessons, and it's also used for setting teacher goals. Students take the test 3 times, September, January, May, and it's about a 15 to 30 minute test. A small percentage of students who are flagged as needing intervention also use the STAR instructional tools that are called Accelerated Reader and Accelerated Math. And that's what we currently use, and we have used it for a number of years now. When we originally entered in, we were in with Ashford and Columbia and Mansfield all using the STAR program. That is now changing. Most of us are going to other programs now, including Columbia and Ashford. And Mansfield is interested in going in at the same time as we are. They start to explore it.
One of the reasons for that is because E.O. Smith at the time was hoping everyone would do something similar. And then through some conversations, we found out it wasn't really something they looked at as a tool for them. So it was kind of opened the door as an additional piece for us to say, should we look at something different, something that better meets our needs.
So just on the last bullet point, so there's also with the assessment, there's also some tools for students who are advanced and need accelerated work, or is it the other way around?
It's the other way around. It's called Accelerated Reader,
Okay.
but it's
to
no,
help
it's
speed up
interventional.
their- speed them up to get to goal. Okay.
Correct.
Got it,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So when we began to embark on exploring our STAR and other alternatives, we had to assemble a committee. So we formed a representative committee that represents math curriculum specialists, ELA curriculum specialists, as well as administration and you, because I'm talking to you right now. How? So this is a very important slide because I want to tell you about the process. This isn't willy-nilly. We did talk to another school that said, well, we heard great things about iReady, so we just did it. That is not what we did. We really went through an extensive process. So we wanted to gather both qualitative and quantitative data in collaboration with a variety of stakeholders. So first we met with folks from iReady, got some great information, but you can't just listen to a rep coming to sell you a product and say, oh, this is great, let's do it, right? So we toured some other schools using the program. Wyndham is a few years into implementation. Ashford is in their first year now. So it's good to see the disparity between those 2 schools and how they're using it.
Can you talk about Wyndham, Ken, specifically?
Yes. Wyndham has been using it for a few years now, and they use it to drive their data team meetings. So we actually not only went and saw the students taking the test, and talked to their consultants about their data and took us through the reports. But then we followed up by going to a data team meeting the following week and seeing how they use those reports to inform their instruction. And Ms. Grabowski-Clark, who does our math 5 through 8, said that it was one of the best data team meetings she's seen because they were really using the standards to dial down and decide what students really needed in the classroom and in interventions. And then in Ashford, we sat down with their interventionist and got a rundown from their perspective. And it was nice to talk to them because they had just gone through the professional development aspect of it to see exactly how do you get teachers up to speed so they don't feel like, oh, this is just another thing you're throwing at us. Did I address the Wyndham?
Yes.
We reviewed related research on the effectiveness, and there is related research on the alignment of SBAC and Common Core to iReady, and the correlation is higher than it is with STAR. And we got a test account that we used with HMS interventionists and other teachers. And we're still in that process now of allowing, 5th grade is toying with it now, and we're seeing what those reports look like on that test account. So throughout the process, we found that there are a number of points where iReady outperforms STAR. And so it's a very extensive list, and we don't need to really go through with a fine-tooth comb, but in math, the way that we teach math nowadays is really through deconstructing numbers and building number sense in students from a very early age. We found that iReady, when we're seeing students on it, does that. It breaks numbers down, it gives them tools, it gives them manipulatives, and that's very much Common Core aligned. STAR does not do that. STAR is a multiple choice test. So we found that iReady outperforms there. There are games and other activities in the middle of these assessments so that students stay engaged longer.
Students love that.
Yes.
They're like, wow.
Yeah.
They love the breaks.
And you do need some brain breaks, and especially what I want to point out is iReady takes longer to administer than STAR does. STAR is 15 to 30, as we pointed out. iReady is a 45 to 60, depending on the grade. So you will need those brain breaks, but it's excellent that they put that in there. I think. I already addressed the math manipulatives. There's more upper end differentiation. There's actually more lower end as well. So STAR does not specify within a grade level. So if a student's taking the test in 7th grade, it'll see what their skills are a grade level above or a grade level below. It doesn't allow you to go down to standards in kindergarten or 3rd or 4th or 5th. So with iReady, it's K through 8. So if you have a student who's significantly below grade level, you'll be able to see which standards they've mastered all the way through that spectrum. And conversely, if you have a 5th grader who's far above, you can see if they're at an 8th grade level. The reports are better aligned to the standards, so I can dial down right to the standard and see if Timmy needs X, Y, and Z. And it'll say exactly what to work on, and it'll give you instructional materials that you can do to help the student. And we talked extensively about not relying solely on those instructional materials. We have a great curriculum, we have phenomenal teachers, but it is great to have those resources as well to just add and supplement what you're already doing. The interventional tools are more student guided. In STAR, for example, if a student didn't do well on a lesson, the teacher is the one that has to come back and look over their shoulder and ask them to go back. iReady progresses with the student, so it'll lock the student out if they haven't passed a lesson and make them complete that lesson before moving on to the next lesson, the next standard. So it's self-guided. Math fat fluency is concentrated in lower grades, so it really does align not only in the approach to the questions, but in how they address the standards grade to grade to grade. The options are more flexible, so if our needs change with interventions, we can change the number of seats at any time. So if all of a sudden, unexpectedly in November, we notice that we have many more students needing interventions than we thought, we can call up iReady and add more seats at any time. Just qualitatively, Wyndham and Ashford report being very pleased with their choice. They changed over to iReady. I spoke with folks at Suffield and Ellington who report that they've also moved away from STAR. More SBAC-like questions, and just some districts who are using it. And you can see there's a pretty extensive list there, 7 million students nationwide. So there are many ways in which we believe as a committee that iReady is outperforming STAR. we did also put together a list of ways that we thought STAR had a leg up on iReady, but the list I'll tell you is very, very small and had to do with the duration of the test and things of that nature. Yes.
What grades are the children tested?
The program goes K through 8. We were talking about, for us, we don't think it's appropriate to test a kindergartner, so we would probably test 1 through 8
Thank you.
for progress monitoring.
Still 3 times a year?
Correct. And you can do more than that. I would not recommend it, but schools have done like monthly progress monitoring, but for us, I believe that that's saturation.
We haven't found that very useful.
Yeah.
We've done some, but as a teacher, I never found it useful. I have a question. So would the teachers be able to assign lessons or no?
Yes. So it's all standard based, so you can click the lesson and deliver it to the child.
Because there are lessons that are automatically based on their performance, I already assign them. But like I found it useful before aspect testing, which we just did this week for math, is that since we didn't finish the whole curriculum, well, we still had a month and a half to go, or a month, what we've used some of the I-read lesson to kind of start introducing them to things that we haven't actually covered in the curriculum. And that was, I think that was helpful, to get the extra exposure to topics that we haven't had a chance to really dig into it.
Right. And they address it pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
To expand to, you know, something that you're talking about that would probably be a unit over many weeks that you could deliver.
Right, or at least to get some extra practice.
Correct.
You know, it's not like they were fully new, we did teach some, but that was the extra practice that you could give based on what their needs were, so. Like I told you when I wrote you the email, I think one of the dangers if you rely too much on the lessons, you kind of have to be careful. You still have to monitor them because sometimes kids, unless you ask them, they say, well, this is so easy, so how's it going? Well, this is so easy. I'm like, okay, well, then we have to make some changes. You know, why is it so easy? So sometimes kids get a little lazy, not lazy, but they just think they have to do it. And
Yeah.
so I think an active participation of the teacher is important.
And there are a lot of districts who use it universally, so they get the diagnostic and the intervention package for all students. And that is not our recommendation. We want to do the diagnostic for all students and the interventional package for students tier 3 for this year. And then possibility to extend it to tier 2 and tier 3 in future years. But before making that expenditure, I think it's wise to start with.
Yeah, I
the tier
think
3.
we started that way, and then I think this year we can use it for everybody.
Yeah.
For enrichment as well as.
Right.
But there are other tools like Khan Academy is another tool that you can use for enrichment and things like that, they're free.
Right. And like I said at the beginning, I feel in a very, very wonderful place this year with curriculum. And I don't want whatever we choose
Yes.
here to impinge upon what we already have going on in Mike's classroom and all the math classrooms and all the ELA classrooms. Because that stuff's rich and deep and great, and this is as well, but it can muddy the waters. If we use it for interventions, I believe that it'll be a great supplement.
The visuals of math manipulatives, if you remember a couple years ago, Center School purchased Symphony Math as a service, an online program, and that was one of the reasons that it was purchased was because of the visuals, and it was more SBAC-like, but it didn't go up through, it was a newer program, it didn't go up through the middle school. The idea would be to do away with Symphony Math and STAR, and this would be, what would be the recommendation to replace it would be iReady.
And many of our IXL seats as well. So when you add up the IXL cost, the Symphony cost, and the STAR cost, this does all of it and more, and it would cost a very similar price to all 3 of those together.
In terms of implementation, is this the type of thing you start with a new school year, or,
Yes.
so it would be maybe for this September? And is there professional development necessary with teachers to be ready for this?
Yes, it's necessary. It's even necessary through the company. They actually make you buy the professional development package. I worked something out with the rep where we could get it at a discounted rate, and they'll come in a few less times, which I think we have a strong plan that would facilitate that, because you don't need someone 8 hours with the teachers hammering them on the stuff. If you have a couple of experts in your building that could be your facilitators, and they could get trained with the staff, and then they could be the point person, I think that's a little bit better use of our time and money. So the plan is we have one extra professional development day at the beginning of this next school year. And so we do have the time, I think, that's gonna take to get the staff up to speed on this. But I am also told it's very intuitive and much easier to navigate than a lot of the other programs, so I don't think the learning curve will be that great.
So Ashford said too.
Yeah. Okay, so summary, our district-wide assessment committee recommends transitioning from STAR to iReady for our interim assessment and intervention needs. Okay, any questions? Other than I've already answered? Bright yellow, come on. Flashing,
Focus
yes.
on that, there we go. We're awake now.
How often do you assess the students in the progress of the,
Well, we're constantly assessing them in the classroom, but these assessment tools are used 3 times a year. Yeah. So only in September, January, May,
for each student?
for each student. Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, there are other curriculum-based assessment tools that we're using, but they're not normed, and they're not dialed down to the standard per se.
And as a result of the assessment of a student is falling behind or, can't move forward, what do you do at that point?
So that's where our SRBI program would come into play. So we have students, tier 1 is all students, every student receiving instruction. Tier 2 is in interventions with the classroom teacher with their extra interventions. And then tier 3 is interventions outside the classroom. It's even more times per minute or per week, and it's with an interventionist. So these progress monitoring tools help us identify the students that are in need of those interventions. That's on a big scale. And a little bit more of a micro look at it is planning your lessons. To say, you can go standard by standard and say, all my students have mastered this standard, I'm ready to move on. You can look at this standard and say, ooh, only 2 of my students have this standard. I thought I taught that. Now I need to go back and teach it a different way. So it gives you information in a lot of different ways. This assessment, the iReady, I would not say the same thing for STAR.
How many professional development days will the staff have?
Have they had or will they
in this
have?
program?
They will have 3 throughout the year, as recommended.
They had 3 last year, and we have new.
We haven't had any yet
So it'll be next year
next year.
that they've got the training.
Correct, yeah.
So when will the program be implemented?
Right, the first day of school, students coming in. We'll start progress monitoring at the end of September, as we did with STAR.
But if they don't have any training until next year,
They'll have
You
training
train-
before that time. So next year, I
This
mean,
year?
this coming August,
this year?
next school year. My mind works in school years, so next school year is September coming up.
Okay.
So they're gonna have training August
In August.
26th of this coming year and be ready to roll. Yep.
Are you going to use iReady results for evaluation purposes, for goals for teachers, for evaluation, or just how
You
are you
can't,
gonna
you
use?
can't use it
But
because we're
are
currently
you-
using STAR.
Thinking, oh, you are using.
We currently are using STAR, and so my expectation is that many teachers will want to use something of that effect for their goals.
One thing that we talked about in our school is the usefulness, unless if you have goals, it's a little bit different, but the usefulness of having iReady in May when we already have SBAC. So that we find that now we're all in a testing mode. And at that point in May, well, we're gonna do it towards the end of May, then there is no point as far as intervention or anything else.
It's just a number at that point.
Right, so the kids like it, they like to see the progress, they love to see the goals.
Mm-hmm.
We tell them, okay, this is how much you grow, this is your target growth, this is the, exceeding the growth. They are really engaged in that, so they like that, but we're not sure if there is any utility in using, in giving them one in May, but we're still.
Is there any costs associated with outside of the professional development?
This program?
Hmm.
Yes. We're gonna talk about it further down the agenda.
You're not gonna tell me now.
The total cost, I think the total cost is 10.
For
10,000.
iReady?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's $10,000, but it's 3,000 of that is professional development, so 7,000 is what is reoccurring. STAR, we pay about 6,100 a year for, and this has a lot more flexibility, a lot more choices that you can make. And we're also, would remove.
Is that coming out of this year's budget or next?
No, there's no money in this year's budget.
And then 3,000 is a one-time,
So one time.
so then it will go down to 7.
Right. And I think the idea is, you do a train-the-trainer model, which is what Ken was describing, and that's what when we went to visit Ashford, the people that did the presentation for us were the trainers. They had received the training, and then they were going out to help people. And they were speaking about a couple teachers that weren't the actual trainers, that they just were decent with technology and they figured things out really fast. So it is, I think, much easier to use, and hopefully people will jump on it pretty quick. Any other questions for Ken?
Okay, let's move on to communications
Thank you.
then.
Thank you.
Ken.
Are you done with this projector?
You can turn that off. No, leave it on. Sorry, leave it on. Just leave it right where you are. Perfect.
Questions? There'll be a lot of questions.
Yeah. You can actually click off of that and go to the traffic thing. There's a picture that's pulled up if you go.
Don't forget out of here?
Yeah. So the ice cream social invitations are the only communications I gave you today. So,
Handmade communications.
yes, so those are,
Incredible.
if you've never been to the ice cream, kindergarten ice cream night, it's very well done. The kids are beaming. We put a ton of these pictures up on the TVs. It's just a great night. They do all the math work. They do all the writing invitations. They do the orders. It's just really well done. So it's exciting.
Okay, so next is the Board of Ed Chairman's report. I wanted to check dates because if we're not going to have a quorum for any of our meetings, that matters too. We typically schedule a retreat during the summer to refresh our board goals. So if you can take a peek at your calendar and tell me what you have for the 8th or the 9th of July. Oh, and you don't have your phone and we are missing 2 members.
No, but I'm leaving the 24th of June, and I won't come back until July 24th.
So you're out a whole month,
Yeah, that's
basically.
the one.
Okay.
So that I know.
We have a board meeting on the.
We have a board scheduled for the 9th.
Of
But if
July?
we're not going to have a quorum, we'll
You know, July?
reschedule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think Elena, she usually is out in July also, as far
Yeah.
as I remember. I think she mentioned.
okay. Is this easier if we have Brenda reach out to people since we don't have everyone's calendars? Are there any folks who are out in August as opposed to July? You'll be back.
I should be around, yeah.
I will be away between the 17th and the 25th.
Okay. I was
Well, we're
looking,
getting closer because you're back.
I was looking like the
24th of
5th,
July.
6th, and 7th of August as possibilities.
I should be around.
Fifth, 6th, and 7th?
That might be my only family vacation that I have.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but.
Yeah,
How about
that week or the later, just the beginning of that week? Okay. So you're out a week, I'm out the next week, you're out the week after that, and then school starts.
Is there anything the week of that 29th there?
No, I'm out that week.
You're out that
what
week.
about the 26th, the week of the 26th? I think.
Oh, I
school-
take it back, I am around. Oh, the
school
week of the
starts
26th.
on Wednesday?
I think we were looking earlier, like maybe, like, so you're back the 24th?
Oh, July.
I hate to do something July 25th, though, you'll be jet lagged.
No.
Oh, July you're talking.
July 25th? Maybe
I
July
can,
25th?
26th is Friday.
Yeah, could we do Thursday the 25th?
I'm in Iceland.
Oh, that's not gonna work. We are just an exotic group.
Do you have
Okay.
Wi-Fi?
I'm gonna Skype you in.
I don't know.
It'll be light really late.
Yeah, he stayed up.
I mean, the
late.
odds of us getting everybody in the summer is.
Okay, so I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to put some dates out there, especially because Elena and Steph are not here.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do. At this point, still, please hold the July 9th as a possible regular meeting. We'll know next month if we need it, and we will see if we can, if we need to, that might become the retreat date instead, if we have a full group of people who are here for a forum, depending upon whether or not we're missing 1 or 2 people, so. Okay, so we'll look to schedule
So
that.
we didn't settle on any date yet.
No, and it looks
And
like,
you're gonna give us 3 or 4 dates or something.
right, would you rather we have Brenda email everyone? Or do you want Brenda to call you? What's the easiest way for Brenda to reach you?
I don't know. I can get-
You wanna call?
Most
I mean, I
everybody
can-
else prefers email, but I know sometimes you don't like the email piece.
Well,
In
my
terms of-
email is down right now.
Okay, so that's not a good
What
option.
about your new
Okay.
computer, Kurt? What about your new computer?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Well, we got it.
we'll move on that.
Too.
Another piece of that is also the summer meetings. We had talked about the need for some additional communications meetings. We're gonna have, this Saturday is our next community engagement meeting. One of the things I had thought might be good to do is to schedule time at the public library, say Saturday mornings or one night a week, so that people can ask Board of Education people questions, have a chance to have conversations. So if you are willing to give up either part of an evening or part of a Saturday morning, please let me know, and then we will try and schedule that if you're interested in being a small group facilitator at one of those over the course of the summer for 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
Was
I
that,
I don't like Saturdays
okay, so her
or Sundays.
Thursday or Tuesday nights are good? The library's open late on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Yeah,
so we can do
Tuesday,
that.
Thursday.
Tuesdays? Okay.
Except for the last Tuesday on Monday.
Yeah, we'll have Brenda contact you and schedule both of them at once, I think, is the way to do it. So I want to have opportunities for people to have some conversation with each other. Most of our presentations so far have been presentation and then question and answer to get through the initial pieces, but I think there are a lot of people who would like to have conversation with one another and not just with us. But each of us would have to kind of jot down some notes to make sure if there were questions that came up we haven't addressed, or if there were additional pieces that we give those back to Phil, so.
Shall we do them 2 people
If we
together?
can
And
schedule that
way,
meeting, that would
if
be great.
one didn't know the answer, maybe the other one would, or you could.
Yeah, we'll see how many, how much
I
people
know,
are
I
able
mean,
to
the
do.
more people you have, it's tougher to coordinate dates in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put some dates out there and we'll put that out to the broader community. I just wanted to get that in place
Yeah.
before school ends, so we can do that. So we'll do a few Tuesdays, a few Thursdays, and a few Saturdays, and then move along. We may need to have a special meeting in August around facilities, so we'll have to check dates for that as well, because while we currently have Tuesday, August 13th scheduled for a Board of Ed meeting, I already know that I am out of state on that date. So if at all possible, it sounds like there's always going to be somebody out one of those weeks. We may need to schedule that at another date, but that would be a special meeting just for facilities anyway. So we'll come back to that, and we will get back to you via email or by phone for Brenda. So, okay. Mr. Stevens, take it away for your reports.
All right, so the first thing I have on there is Hall School traffic, and there's a graphic on the projector screen here for you to see. I've been monitoring traffic in front of Hall School for the last few weeks. I think this has been a concern of administration, superintendents, parents, teachers for a while, and I'm actually most concerned between 7 a.m. and 7:40. That is when our speed limit sign is flashing 25 miles an hour on either end. And I'm going to tell you that 25 miles an hour is not something that happens often with many cars. Tracy's seen me out there with my coffee in the morning, standing on the sidewalk telling people to slow down. I've talked to several troopers. I talked to the resident trooper in Stafford, and he actually loaned us their digital speed board. And so we were able to get some data from that. It was there from Wednesday, May 1st to Monday, the 6th. And there's no flashing lights, 25 mile an hour zone on Saturdays and Sundays. And that board only picks up or picked up southbound traffic. So it did not pick up northbound traffic. And my concern, Vanna, can you stand up there for me? I mean, can you stand up there for me? My southbound is going from the top of the screen down, and that is towards WIllington. And so if you, the red line there is where you need to get to in your car for you to see who's in the crosswalk. Can you point to the crosswalk for me where the smiley face is? That is where people cross right there in the morning from the crosswalk. And you can see there's 3 trees on that same side. Can you point those out for me? They say tree, tree, tree. And right now, the bottom, on that same photo, yeah, point to the photo on the bottom right of that, keep going. That is what it looks like right now. Those trees are in bloom. And so when you're standing in the crosswalk and there's a car going southbound and they're going 40 miles an hour, this is like a math project, Mike, it takes you about 400 feet to stop if you're paying attention. We have about 300 feet.
And if you're not paying attention, it's even worse.
It's yes. If they're doing 25, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're doing 40, 45 miles an hour, it takes you that full length of that red line to stop. Now add the other 2 pictures in here. The bottom right is, you've got people pulling in there to drop off their children. And then the other side of the island is people leaving after they drop off their children, and you have buses leaving. So if you go back to the picture on the left, I drew in 2 boxes where there's cars. And those 2 boxes, and the smiley face next to the car is the student that just got out of the car that's happy to come into Hall School. That's where they're walking in. But it blocks the view even further for the person that's going southbound. And so we collected some data. Thank you, Ken, nice job.
That's it, that's all I need.
That's all you need to do. Thank you.
I want to turn the letter.
We collected some data. The sign worked. It shows it works because the sign can collect data and it says if they slowed down. 85%.
The sign, you mean the flash, the one that measures your...
The speed.
The speed, right? Yeah.
85% of cars slowed down that were going southbound. And they attribute that to the sign. And I've talked to the Tolland resident trooper there. I've talked to the Stafford resident trooper. Tolland is actually buying more of the town green. And basically what they do is they have ones that are mobile that you can purchase, and they just put them on the sign, right below the sign, and they collect data off them. You have to pay for the data package. But he said they have proof that it has slowed down the whatever road they put it on. So I'm going to eventually say we need to do something about this, because my concern is I don't want someone to get hit in that crosswalk. We have cones in the middle of the road. I saw a video of the custodian putting cones out the other day. He now puts his phone on the inside and presses record when he goes out with an orange vest to put the cones in the on the side of the crosswalk. He is in the crosswalk and people fly through. So I'm concerned. We're looking at flashing signs. We're looking at a crossing guard. Which sounds silly for staff, but I can't tell you how wild it is in the morning at that spot. So it's a little concerning, but I wanted to share the speeds with you because that's what's important. The average southbound daily volume, 2,683 cars go through there southbound
Wow, between what time?
daily.
And what time is that? 7 to
It's-
7:40?
No, it's all day, so
Oh,
12 to 12,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
And during our drop-off time, we got data for each hour, and I have this nice little spreadsheet that we basically get. 6 a.m., between 6 and 7, there were 536 cars that went through. The max speed was 68 miles an hour.
Whoa.
The average speed is 33 miles an hour, and the 80th percentile speed was 40.7 miles an hour. From 7 to 8, there were 1,023 cars that went through. The max speed was 51 miles an hour. The average speed is 28 miles an hour. Why? Because where we put that sign, people that are slowing down and turning into the parking lot are slowing down to 5 and 10 miles an hour, and they turn in. So that dropped that number down. So even though the average speed shows 28 miles an hour, I would argue and say it's actually faster than that because the people that go through every day keep going. The 80th percentile is 35, and then 8 a.m., 8 to 9, 877 vehicles went through. Max speed was 49 miles an hour. Average speed is 30 miles an hour. So these signs work. I'm working with the First Select Woman and Public Works to try and secure a couple of these signs. We don't have money in our budget, but this was a point. If you went to the Board of Finance meetings, Erica put in $10,000 for next year, requesting some sort of product to help monitor speeds around town. I've been in conversation with her because a couple of these signs cost $7,000, 2 of them. But the fact that they're mobile, as long as someone can change the battery, which if we put them in front of the school, we could, and then if they need to move them someplace in town, they take them and go, and then you move them back. And that was one thing that they recommended, because people get comfortable when they see the same thing every day. And so they were comfortable seeing the speed sign.
Is this a state road? So that's a number?
It is a state road, and what they will tell you is, where's your data to say there's accidents? There's very little data. There's no accidents there. So what you have to do is you have to wait for something terrible to happen to say, can we?
I have a person who will give you experience firsthand of, he said almost losing his life in that spot.
Yeah.
So there's more than one person who's been injured,
It is,
so.
I worry about it, the tractor trailers that go through, or there's box trucks, I can't tell you the number of times, and it's hard to see them in the crosswalk. So,
Could we put a speed bump?
no,
Because it's a state road.
because it's a state road, and honestly, the 2 cones that I told them they needed to put in the middle of the road are supposed to have a permit. We don't have a permit for them right now. But I put them out there because need to slow people down. And so eventually, I just got an email actually this morning again from the trooper in Stafford, Trooper Duncan. He sent me basically if you see the pedestrian sign in the lower right, they have those where, and I think they have them at Yukon now, where you press a button and it lights up right away. And it's got a flashing light around it. That's a recommendation he has. But they cost money. And so, it's something that we may want to think about in the future if, depending on what Erica can kick in for money, she's willing to support that, which she is. And we're trying to come up, I honestly think a crossing guard from 7 to 7:45 would not be a terrible idea.
Except that the crossing guard takes their life in their hands by doing that,
They
so,
Do it when you
I
are
don't
waving a
think
sign and.
I don't know that that's enough alone, I would want to do
In
another
combination,
option
I
with
agree,
that,
I agree.
Is that flashing light on during special events?
No, that flashing light is programmed, and it's, the one on the southbound side right now is actually broken. It had to be replaced, the battery did. But it's programmed by the computer, and we only have a permit to run it for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. The hour in the afternoons, It's not as busy, there's not as many cars, but the data was really good to collect. We're gonna have to do something there. The other piece that I want to mention is the trees. We have an email into the tree warden, here we go again, because even though they're flowering and they're probably were beautiful and 3 feet high in the past, they're huge now, and when they flower, we're making the situation worse. We need to cut them down. He has to come out and look at them first, and then we'll be removing them, because if we can improve the sight line at all, we should do it.
I know they have that, what you had from Stafford, they have that in Coventry. I forgot, Crossroom, the one next to the elementary school, was a long.
Lake Street. I think that's Lake Street, right? Or is it the intermediate? That's the intermediate.
Yeah, no, the elementary, the lower elementary, I forgot what it, the one right across from the lake.
Robertson?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
so.
Lake Street?
They have a flashing sign there? Or
They
one that
have
you
that
push the
measuring-
button?
Speed sign.
They have, and that's on all the time, because I drive that area all the time,
Yeah.
and that, I think that definitely slows people down at
It
night
does.
too. It's, you just see it and you go, wait, I'm going too
Yeah.
fast.
Is there an issue with northbound traffic too, or are the sight lines better?
The sight line is significantly better, because literally when you come to that straightaway and you see the blinking light, you can see all the way to the top of the bend in the red. It's
I
just
know, I
so
walk
much
my
better.
dog and I do it after school hour, and every time I do that crossway, I really look from the right hand side,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay.
Trooper Duncan used to work at Troop C, and he said, I've given 200 tickets in that same spot. He knew exactly, he's like, oh, the bend in the road right there, terrible sight line. He knew exactly what I was talking about before I could even get out my spiel to him, so we're gonna have to consider something. But just wanted to bring it to your attention to know that, that's why I'm out there every morning with
Yeah, I
my
know,
coffee.
I know. It
Might
took me a
not,
little
might
while
want
to
to
get out.
encourage him to come out and issue some more tickets, because that will also slow people down.
They do, but I talked to the staffer, or the Tallinn police officer about that, and he said, it only works for so long, because we can only be there, we can't be there every day.
Right.
And so they do their speed signs, and then they ticket for a week or a day, and then they're gone. And then the next day, the same person's hauling through there, so.
Something to take into consideration when we're looking at facilities.
Absolutely.
Is this something, the flashing signs or the speed signs, is that something that the town or the school system are responsible? That's not a state
It's
purchase?
not a
or
state
road?
purchase.
And
We own
it's
this.
not reimbursable, so we own the street sign as well?
Correct.
So there's none of those, okay,
Right, and you have to get the permit to do it.
okay.
And Erica is the local traffic authority, so sometimes you just have to get her permission, but it's flashing on a state road, you have to go to the district authority. I learned a lot about traffic authority.
Well,
Okay,
at the state, you said unless you have data to show there's been accidents, they won't do any kind of traffic calming.
The recommendation from, and you mentioned the speed bump, the things they put in the road to measure the number of cars and they can actually figure out the speed. They said you could do a traffic study too, but they're not gonna, if we're gonna buy a sign, they're not gonna argue with it. You just say, hey, it's a school zone, we would like to put up a speed sign that says your speed is, and they're gonna say, okay.
But they're not gonna do anything, they wouldn't do,
They're
plan
not gonna
anything to
put
put
in
an
a letter.
island in like they did in Tallinn or.
Not yet. Not yet.
can you put this on the agenda again for the fall if we don't have a resolution?
Yes. School calendar update. We had 2 snow days. I wanted to just let you know, 2 heat-related early dismissals, August and September, and 2 delays for snow and ice. Felt like a bunch more, I was up more than that. We have updated the school calendar, and the last day for students is Thursday, June 13th. The last day for staff is June 14th. The calendar's on the website, it was also sent out in the digital backpack. I wanted to bring it up because in the past you have voted to shorten the year, and I wouldn't recommend that this year, obviously, because, we didn't have a ton of snow. So, there we go.
Okay.
The community engagement events. We had our second event, and I think they're going well. We've had small crowds. I want to schedule an additional presentation at the senior center if you would approve that,
Yep.
just for them. If anybody else in town wants to go, I would like to schedule that. And I'd also like to, Randy Belair volunteered me for WIllington Day. I thought it was a really good idea, and it's my daughter has a huge soccer tournament that day that I fly out from the road race. However, her team plays at 9:30 and I'm going to miss it anyways and doesn't play again until the next day. So I will volunteer myself, if you're okay with it, for a portion of WIllington Day, just to go in, not necessarily do the presentation, but be there to answer questions. We can put some posters up, just to give some information. I think the more people that have the information, the better. Along the same lines, and why I wanted to go to the senior center, the vote passed, was it last Tuesday?
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I was really interested in the voting data. Because I will tell you that for the most part, the vote passed by people ages 50 plus. We get data by age for the number of for voters, 20 to 29, 9 voters, 30 to 39, 22, 40 to 49, 34. The rest of the voters, our biggest age group for voters was 60 to 69. So it's good information to know that they're out there voting. We need to make sure we are letting these people know what's going on. I always just assumed that it was probably parents that would pass our votes, and it wasn't. So people need to be active. Along the same lines, I have 2 additional slides. Are you okay with WIllington Day, by the way?
Yes.
And the
So where
senior
are you
center?
gonna be at WIllington Day? Are you
I
gonna
think
have
I gotta
booths
talk to
there?
them first, and I think what I'll do is just set up a canopy with a table, tape up the, have a copy of the presentation, have a copy of the options.
So you think they're gonna have a space that you can
I do.
use?
I think they'll be okay. And if not, I'll make a t-shirt or something and just wander around. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But I think they'll be okay with me having a space to just answer questions. I'm not gonna get anything to pass out to draw people in, I'm not gonna do anything like that. After the last presentation, there was questions, and Michelle brought up the question about the taxpayer impact. I gave you 2 papers in your packet, today's a handout, and these are hot off the press. And so, the first paper is the same, yeah, if you can just hold that up so everyone can see that, is this basically the same slide that was out there.
We already have.
But one of the things that was hard to figure out was that we had, that bonding could not be applied, those rates could not be applied to options 1, 2, and 3 because there would be no staffing savings, because you still have 2 buildings. So it wasn't an accurate look at it. So what I did was I then took the left side now where it says does not include $500,000 savings and wrote 2 buildings, options 1, 2, and 3. I now have the pricing in there for what year 1, 10, and 20 would look like. And then to the right includes $500,000 savings because of the staffing. 1 building, options 4A, 4B, 5, and 6. Go ahead.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
This is too small. The incremental, so I don't know if you can add a line underneath because obviously it doesn't fit. But this, the incremental is what people are gonna be interested in. If you just say $3,000, I'm like, okay,
They don't
what
know
does
what
that
they're
mean?
paying now, so they
Right.
don't know what the increase is.
So you want to know what is the incremental cost to me?
So do you
if
want
it's
that increased number every year?
183, maybe you can put it underneath
So
and make it
Here's
the same
what I would
font.
recommend is just have the increase, you don't need the 3 year, the 3 different
3,000.
lines. You can have it be between 297 and, or between 197 and 297. You know, make it a range.
Where are you looking?
Well,
right
I
here,
don't know
so
about
make
the
it a
range,
range.
but you definitely
No,
need this in bigger
Between 100 and 200,
number,
depending on,
bigger
between,
font.
you know, 200 and 300. So make it a range and then get rid of the other 2 years. You don't, it's too much information because we don't compare the year 10 versus the year 20.
I think you do, because your rates are gonna go down. You're showing your highest rate, and that's why you want your year 10 and year 20,
Yeah,
because your bond comes down. It's, your highest in your year 1 is $241 increase, but it's cut in half in year 20.
What's
Or
important
your
though,
third.
I think, is to compare what's a 14 million versus an 18 million. That's the piece that people most want to compare, the top and the bottom.
You're probably gonna see that on this.
Okay, so
But
maybe we
I
need a
think
different chart,
that-
okay.
The increment is what's more important than the 3,192 or 3,137. You really need to know, I don't know what that means to me. I mean, if, I don't know off the top of my head exactly.
Which part?
The increase is what you need to highlight. So, you see how it's in parentheses
Yep,
and
I
it's
got
tiny? I would
I had it underneath and I moved it back.
Yeah, you really have to have it at least as big as the other one on top.
You almost wanted to say 297 increase, and then in small parentheses, total taxes
Yeah.
3,306. You
I
almost
think that
want
would be more important.
the increase.
But that's not real, because it's per 100,000, and that's
Yeah,
why.
but the
Yeah,
same.
so increase per
People have a
100,000.
sense of-
But I know how much my house is worth, so when you tell me 183 increase, then I know what that was gonna cost me. I multiply that by the value of my house, okay, now I know how much it's gonna cost. When you tell me 3,193 is a little more complicated, because I'm not sure
What you got now.
exactly
Yeah.
how much I'm paying now, I might have forgotten, but if you tell me how much more I'm gonna pay, then it's concrete. And I can certainly apply it to the value of my house, if per 100,000, that's an easy thing to do in your head. So I think the incremental is what people wanna see.
Due to
Yeah.
increases.
Yeah.
Okay. This is also assumes that we have the same mill rate, and I put that on the bottom because that's really important. And it also, that you have the bond rates on there, but I think this makes more sense now because it also has the options. Even though not every option is $14 million or $18 million, it gives you a sense of, hey, where would we be at? If you look at the second page now,
The confusing part about 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6 is that 1, 2, and 3 are not 14 and 18, and 4, 5, and 6 are not 14 and 18. So these numbers don't match up with the option numbers.
Correct.
So just,
But this is where I was saying to you, to get bonding numbers for all those things.
you don't have to, but there are gonna be people who think that, oh, this is that. So just make sure that when you're doing your presentation and you get to
Matches
this,
up.
that it matches up.
I didn't want to put a specific option because I didn't want to be accused of saying, we are pushing option 2.
Fair enough, fair
So
enough.
That's why I
We have
put
not
it.
decided at all yet, so, okay.
Now, the second one, the second handout would be the slide following that one. And basically what Donna and I did, we went through the bond payment schedule and created an additional table showing the approximate mill rate with a 20 and 30-year bond. And we also added in a 2.5% annual increase in the net to be raised before the bond payment. Okay, so it assumes the grand list stays the same for 3 years. That's the only thing that stayed the same. So if I'm gonna walk through this top section is renovate to new, $14 million project. Basically, the first number there, the $13,152,396, is how much the town had to raise for next year. That's what was just approved.
Right.
Then you add in, based upon the bond payment chart, after you subtract 500,000, you have $798,725 that you have to add, for a total of $13,951,121. That then now has a 2.5% increase in what you have to raise, and it brings the mill rate from 30.09 to 31.92. Make sense?
So, yeah, let me just read. So 13,152,000, that's your regular budget.
That's after they applied whatever money they had, you know, in the savings, whatever they had to raise by taxation, that is the number. To get to the next 13 million underneath it for 2021, that's $13,481,206. I added 2.5%, because you have to show some, you expect that there's gonna be some, it's gonna increase. So now there's 2.5% more. Now the next bond payment is $774,000. In year 2, the mill rate would go up to 32.61. Year 3, again, you add the 2.5% on top of the 13.4 million. You add the bond payment of $742,000. The mill rate for this particular option, renovate to new at $14 million, would be 33.31 for 20 years. Okay? And obviously it would keep going.
One thing that would be helpful is, you gave us that list once of comparable mill rates from other towns. I think you're gonna get asked that question at Wellington Day and maybe again on Saturday, so having that with you is really helpful.
Okay? And then basically if you just go through it, I tried to put 20 years next to 20 years. So the first one is renovate to new 20 years, the second one is new building for 20 years with an $18 million payment. And I honestly expected that the mill rate would be a little bit higher, and it was better. Donna and I both thought it was better than we thought. And if you see that, the divided by grand list, divided by 99% payment rate, basically to get your mill rate, what you do is you take the total and you divide it by the grand list amount that's brought in, which is $441,541,020. And then you divide by 99, that's 99% of the people pay their taxes. That's how you get the mill rate.
So the grand list, oh, it's right here.
Yeah, I put it down the bottom, so I was, without going crazy, I wanted people to see where I came up with the numbers.
This is really helpful. This is really helpful.
So I think the two together, and Donna, and actually Brenda and I too, sat to go through this and try and make it a little more reasonable. The other thing I did at the very, very bottom of the fine print was I said, well, let's just figure out what the 2.5% is. In 1920, it's 30.09. Well, if you increase your budget 2.5%, it brings it up to 30.84, and then the following year it would be up to 31.61 without the bond payment. So I thought that was good information. Is this clear? with this extra piece, and I like the addition of adding the towns, is there anything that, because this was a question of, people need to understand what the payment, what the mill rate is gonna look like, and I don't know that everyone understands the mill rate, and they think they understand probably the increase.
So it's a 13,000 figure, the total town budget.
The $13 million is the full town budget that they, after applying any money that they want, that they have already,
Yeah.
grants, whatever, that's what they have to raise that year by taxation.
Right. So these are just estimates, but,
Correct.
and the thing with the mill rates is that if you wanted to calculate how much the increase would be, you could compare the mill rate you have at the bottom, the 30.09, because for your mill rate, you
Correct.
just multiply that times 1,000 and you get your, not 1,000, yeah, well, you add two, you move the decimal point
Two places.
two places,
Correct.
because it's the, what's up there. So you could do, some of the comparisons people need to understand is the comparison of this mill rate versus what the mill rate would be anyway. You know, so you could almost put the mill rate down the right-hand column for a comparison. You don't have to, but that would, what I would do, my next piece, if I saw something like this, is to put the mill rate, this is the mill
Before the
rate,
bond.
this is the mill rate with the project, this is the mill rate without the project.
I was really squeezing it.
Yeah.
I had the same thing, 19, 20, 20, 21,
Yeah,
22,
yeah,
up here.
Just squeeze this.
It's the formatting.
So I
We'll
can
get
format it
somebody
for
that
you
can
if you get it
format
set up. But
So what do you want,
I'm just saying, the next thing I would do is I would put
you want what I wrote down the bottom,
0.09,
uh,
and then I, you know, so that I have the
Oh.
comparison.
He has it at the
You have it
bottom,
on the
I
bottom,
see.
right, so I would then do
you're just saying make it come to life.
30.84, 31.61, and one of the things that this shows is that that's without a big project, but we still have to maintain the buildings.
Right.
So I would argue that even your other payments are not truly apples to apples, because you're not including, you know, what costs we're gonna have anyway. So there's, you know,
2.5% increase only, is basically what that would be.
yeah.
Okay. Any other feedback? Tracy, or?
That 2.5 is on the budget itself,
Correct,
yeah.
yeah.
Because we know
But
the
it-
contracts
as
are
you
gonna
say,
go
there
up.
are other costs that don't show up here,
Right.
taking the room.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this question just because I don't know if it's related, but when, for the roofs, right, we have those approved,
Mhm.
and we're gonna bond those, right?
No,
No?
they just took the money.
They took the money out of existing accounts, out of our reserves.
Oh, because, so we went back and forth a couple of times on that,
Yeah,
because
no.
first we're gonna pay it,
I don't believe they're gonna bond.
because
If
they
you could-
wanted to do the roads, remember?
They were talking about it, and it was too much.
Oh, all right.
The
So the
interest,
plan-
the interest payments on bonding were pretty high, so
So
they're saving.
now they're still thinking about, so starting in next year for both schools, year one.
Applications would go in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, so how does that fit in? Because why do both roofs if we're gonna build new schools?
I think you'll have your decision in time before the application will go in. But at least it's decided that if you stay, you are gonna have new roofs, because the application is not gonna, the application now for the roofs is really June 20, I mean, they approved it for next year, but it's really June of 20 that it goes in. So it's rolling, but it's later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, did we talk about solar at all? We have?
Yes, but it doesn't make sense to do solar right now if you leave your buildings. The solar company said I wouldn't, if you are potentially thinking about leaving your buildings, that doesn't make sense. If you're gonna build a new building, you should come and talk to us, because we could potentially,
Just because E.O. Smith, we just approved the
Yeah.
referendum, the roofs, and they are going to look at, to do solar, because once you do a roof, that's the time to do it.
right, absolutely.
Is there anything else? I can understand this, where we're dealing with the Board of Ed costs. And that's what's driving this mill right here. You have other agencies in town, too.
That's all of them.
Hmm?
That's all of them. The 13 million is the number that Donna told me
Yeah,
that we have to raise by
that
taxation.
includes capital expenditures.
That's,
It includes this year's capital expenditures?
Yeah, that's included in the.
It doesn't mean that should one of the buildings blow up or the roof blow up and we have a huge unexpected capital expenditure, it doesn't have unanticipated, but it does have
So we have
the regular amount of capital expenditures, if there is such a thing.
the 13 million is all of the government agencies for Wellington. What we have to raise
Yeah.
next year for taxation, it's that amount. Because that's where why I added the 2.5% her, because I didn't want it just to be education. I was trying to be a little more proactive I didn't want someone to come back and say, well, you said it was gonna be this amount and now it's higher. This is probably a little more realistic, but it's still an educated guess based upon the data we have today.
So the bond would be 798.
That first year, correct, on that option.
Yeah.
And do we
And that
have,
depends
I'm sorry, go
to
ahead.
some extent on the bonds that you buy, when you buy them, the cost.
Right,
1% or 0.5% can make a big difference.
right.
Over 20 years.
And the bond rates were very similar, and I put them on this slide here
Yeah.
for renovation and construction. I mean, it was
Yeah, that was
0.02%.
3.6 for 20 years.
Any other questions about that?
No, that's
If
good.
you have any other feedback about it, let me know, or the presentation itself.
It would be interesting to have a comparison of if we were only just maintaining the buildings, if that was option one, or if we're gonna do the capital projects, maintenance effort, what that would be for comparison purposes. Because I'm assuming that if we were just gonna continue to maintain what we were gonna do anyway, we're not gonna do any new building, we're just gonna fix the roofs, fix the leaks, keep things up.
That's $14 million, I think. Does not include $500,000 savings. That option right there.
Okay.
Option one, right, includes option one, that's right. I was thinking the same thing, but yeah, maybe
Okay.
it's included.
And one of them is close. The new school, I think one of them is 18,700,000, but 700,000 of it that's the one where it has the suite.
District office, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Once you start narrowing it down, then you need to go and get more accurate
Yeah, we'll get more
pricing.
detail, but
Yes.
just so that I have that in my head, that's helpful.
But the mill rate could be driven up. There are factors,
Oh, sure.
like this year, I think they dipped into that fair weather fund we had, or what do you call it? It's
A rainy day fund?
reserve, yeah, rainy day fund. That's almost depleted, almost.
No.
It's not depleted. They're higher.
They're higher
They're
than
supposed to
required.
maintain
$1 million in there?
Yeah, they're supposed to maintain 12%, and they were, and even after all the money they applied this year, they're still over 12%.
Yeah, so they have that too.
They still have some, yeah. And I think that's why one of the reasons they decided to say, do the roofs. We don't need to bond them.
Okay.
So our recorder is actually gonna take the stage for a second and just talk about, the next thing that's on there is the trout release. We were talking about.
Ooh,
this
sure sign of
beginning, so
spring.
I saw
Do you
that
wanna,
somewhere in
yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah,
Twitter.
it's all online everywhere.
Yeah,
There's
I
even
saw
videos of a prank if you watch that one.
Oh, yes, you were in
It's
it.
a
Yes.
very good prank.
I'm still recovering.
That is so funny, you almost hit the custodian.
I know. I wish they'd bleep that part out. About a year ago, Ken approached me with this opportunity to work with trout in the classroom. Casually just said, we'll have a 55-gallon tank in your classroom. There'll be 200 fish. Looked at him like he was crazy, but we took it on this year and it's been the best addition to my classroom. So rather than just teaching kids about science, it's really a daily hands-on experience for the students. At this point, they come in, they know exactly what to do. They're testing nitrite levels, testing nitrate levels, testing pH levels. They know exactly how to fix these things. They know exactly how to change the water in the tank. So rather than just learning about chemistry from our last unit, they're applying it every single day. So it's been an awesome experience for them and for me. And at this point, I'm just the facilitator. I'm there to clean up the water spills. There are some water spills. But our original plan was to release them this Thursday, but just due to the weather and the cold temperatures, we're gonna hold out a couple more weeks, which isn't a bad idea just because we got the eggs a little bit late so they can grow a little bit bigger. But we'd love for you to join us when we do have that day. The kids are loving it. I know that you guys saw them when they were just eggs, but they're a lot bigger now. So we'll update the Facebook and Instagram with some pictures, but we're really enjoying it. We can't wait to do it again. It's been an awesome experience, so I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. So it's been awesome.
And it was actually funded by an author, a local author, who is a parent and also, a big fisherman.
You know, we should tell Peter Tanaka,
Yeah.
he wants those kids to know how to,
Kind of make
Yeah, all
things
that
and do
stuff.
things.
Good.
Well,
We'll
if
invite
you
him
walk
to.
in that classroom, she doesn't answer the questions, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they walk right over and they tell you exactly what you're
Yeah.
looking at and what they've done.
Nitrite
It's
levels
really-
are at 1 ppm today. This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
They know more than I do at this point. So
Great.
it's awesome.
next thing on my list is SBAC testing. Ken, do you want to talk about the Pep Rally?
Yeah, we had a great pep rally last week. We reached out to the folks at UConn. They brought out some of the cheerleaders from UConn. We had our very own pep band in the stands, and we brought in a special guest who did some basketball tricks, and then spoke specifically about perseverance and about the hard work and obstacles that she had to overcome to get where she was, and told a great story about how she went on Ellen on television and dropped all of her balls all over the place when she was trying to do a trick, and then got really scared, got back up there and dropped them all again, and then finally the third time was successful. But just interjected stories like that that really drove home our message of the pep rally, which was really perseverance and just giving it your all. We took the stress away, I believe, of the results and made it more about the process of just showing what you got and giving it your best. So it was a great time. Students were pumped.
Students were testing this week. They're probably wrapping up some. We have some makeups to do. But
Yep, they're just about wrapping up. We only have a handful of kids at HMS, and I don't know about CES, but I'm guessing it's the same.
And they had the school mascots there.
Yeah.
And they did great.
They did wonderful. They were students, 8th grade students.
2 8th grade students, they were amazing.
Did they go to center also? I heard about.
No, it was,
Wisconsin
they went.
Center.
3rd and 4th grade students
Oh, they
went to
went
Hall.
I heard about a mascot though at center. Did the-
Oh, that
did
was,
mascots go there
the
too?
mascot was unveiled during the center stage,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and they all thought it was me. It wasn't me.
I will say though, when we had the two mascots side by side, Hall School's in need of a new mascot. So we might down the road be coming to you or to the PTO for $700 for a new mascot.
It did look pretty sad compared to what they had.
Yes, the bee is awesome and the hawk is probably 50 years old, I guess.
Yes.
I think that as a health standard, that would be a necessity, and the PTA, PTO have often helped with health supplies. I would consider the sanitation within that costume as a health necessity.
Gotcha.
Okay, moving along. So WSS, we finished our negotiations. It's basically at the voting point for them. We have a good deal with them. I'll share it with you in June once it's all finalized. But thanks to Ann and Elena for serving on the negotiating committee, and to the WSS negotiating team for their collaborative effort. Nicole and I did something a little different. I think this time Nicole's one of the presidents, and she and I sat down together and tried to clean up some of the language issues that were not dollar impacts, and we did a lot of work on the front end that we then brought to the negotiating team and shared, and that's where they voted on. So I appreciated her collaborative efforts there. Screen-free week last week, the community hosted it was 2 weeks ago actually. We try and do something each night. Brian Phillips, PE teacher at Center School, hosted several activities, and he did them right after school this year, which was really nice. He actually had a pre-K kind of event, and then a little bit older group come through. And so thanks to him for doing that. And Amy Redding, the CS librarian, also had evening hours for the book fair, and she sold a ton of books. PTA did something, the Wellington Public Library did something, and Maureen, through the rec department, also hosted events. And so families had an opportunity to do something every night, which is nice. And then the last thing on my report here is the New York City field trip. It started out with a bus breaking down in East Hartford.
Oh, no.
With the kids on it?
With the kids on it, didn't make it even to Hartford. And I had gotten the text even before Ken had the ability to go, Phil, here's what's going on. Company brought out another bus. They did a great exchange real quick on the side of the road on the highway, got the kids on the next bus, and they made the show on time. So it was a huge success, lots of great feedback. Big thanks to Jason Phillips and his crew for really taking the initiative and making it a memorable day. There's a lot of planning that goes into those events, and those are the days that I think superintendents, the principal was on the trip, but that's where the superintendent is really holding their breath going, I want this to go really well for students and staff, and it did. So kudos to them.
Yeah, I saw the positive parent comments that went.
It was on Facebook for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. I'm gonna move on.
Yep, moving right along. The budget report.
Financial report. There is not much to report here because there's not much there. So if you look at the financial report, I met with Donna, and one of the areas right now, which is special education related services, I met with Pupil Service Director the other day, Marsha McKinley, and Penny, who's her admin secretary. We went through special ed costs, what's coming in. We have about $31,000 we expect coming in from excess cost. Supposed to be the end of May, and that's what we anticipate, but you should never know with the state. We're banking on that money. Right now in the account, it shows $234. Yes, that does say $234. It's not an error. Any money that was spent was either contractual or, today Steve called me from Hall School and said we have a sink in someone's classroom who's sitting here today, and for whatever reason it was backing up when they were not even using the sink and water was rising. We had to have somebody come in and fix it. So, yeah.
So the 234 is gone as of this
So-
afternoon?
I will also tell you that to get to that $234, we had to move some money that was in encumbrances out of the encumbrances. So we're shifting money to make sure we stay in the positive right now.
So that $31,000 you were talking about, is that money we have coming in to offset some of these costs?
It will help offset some of these costs. And so Donna, I have to really commend Donna because I look at this and go, Donna, we have $234 left. And she says, it's gonna be okay. We've gone through all the encumbrances, and I'm really banking on that. We may need to apply some of our 1% money or our Medicaid money, maybe, but we don't anticipate that we'll need to go back to the town. And if we do go back to the town, it will only be for that to access some of the money that's in that 1% account. But we believe we're gonna scrape through to July 1. And I think I mentioned I'm holding summer custodial help until July 1 just to try and save some money. It's a couple weeks, but they usually get some additional help. They don't get it until July 1 when the new money starts. So it is quite tight. Any questions about the report?
Okay, moving on to committee reports.
Oh, the transportation that finally came back, by the way, because the EO check came in.
Oh, okay, good.
There were no committees that met. The only thing I wanted to say on there was next policy committee meeting we have scheduled is June 11th, if that still works for everybody, if you can just confirm that. We still have a lot of policy work to go, and I would say that might be something we can try and do a few hours of this summer, just try and get a bunch out of the way.
We'll have to double check with Elena, since she's also on that committee. But that would be a 6 o'clock an hour before the regular.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Oh, Herb, you asked for the committees too, by the way, and Brenda updated and just added in there that some of those ad hoc committees that may meet once a year, wellness, security, depending on what they were, the clubs is only met once, just to see who's on what. You had asked about that, so we figured that to you too.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I did have one typo. On the very last page, the last paragraph under my board comments, the word add has an extra D. Right here, it would pass spell check, because
Yeah.
it's short for
Oh,
advertisement,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Easy fix.
It's worth saying that I was not at the baseball game, but watching it on television because it's too cold in April to go to the ballpark. But I've seen it a number of times, so that's a good piece. Other changes or additions or anything else to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll take a motion
I'll
to.
make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
April 11.
Thank you. Thank you, Herb,
Editorial change.
with that one less letter. Okay. And thank you, Kiara. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Nays? Passes unanimously. Okay, healthy food certification, attachment number 3.
So this is something that you have to do annually, and this is just basically that schools participating in the last National School Lunch Program have to take action annually to certify that, whether or not food items sold to students separately from the reimbursable meals will or will not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards. And so basically, Wendy does all the work here. This is obviously tied to reimbursement. So basically, to approve this, if you turn to that second page, I believe you just read this motion every year. I went back to see what you've done, and it looks like that's what you've done. And so the part that says healthy food option is the motion, and then they also request that you have what your approach for exemptions. And so those are 2 areas of it, 2 things that need to be addressed.
So let's take them separately to give the person a chance to catch their breath between the paragraph. We'll give you a written copy later, so you don't have to type it as we speak it. Anne, I see you have yours out, so if you would make the motion.
Okay. I move that we have a motion for healthy food options. I move to approve that the Willington Board of Education, pursuant to Section 1020-251F of the Connecticut General Statutes, certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in our schools and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with said standards during the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. This certification shall include all foods offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or by non-school organizations and groups.
Do I hear a second? Second. Okay, thank you, Kiara. Questions? Comments?
This matches our wellness policy.
Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table for healthy food options, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions, passes unanimously. You have enough breath to go for the second one, or you want to
I'll
pass
do
it? Okay.
I move that the Willington Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards, provided that the following conditions are met. Number 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food items are not sold from vending machines or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings, are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, we just fix the.
Okay, we got two typos on there, an S and an is instead of the and seconded by Herb. Thank you. Questions on this one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion for the exemptions for the food items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Anne, for your
You're welcome.
excellent reading there. Okay, moving on to the first reading of policies. Is this the first reading or the second
The
reading?
first reading,
This is the one we did last time, okay.
we gave it
We gave it out,
Out,
but
that's fine.
it was not ready. Now we've done the edit, so. Did we? I believe last month was the first reading, and this is the second reading. Oh,
submission of updated student,
I thought there was a policy we did last time.
Where's the?
well, so I'm going back to,
We postponed the, check on the minutes, we might have postponed it.
can't remember if we just gave it out and so we couldn't call it.
I think there were two pieces of it maybe that we hadn't finalized. Oh, no,
It
the,
says the specific policy will be discussed later in the agenda.
Oh,
First reading of physical restraints.
it was the first reading, and then this is the second reading.
But that, is this the physical restraint?
E, attachment 6.
Yes,
Physical restraints and seclusions of students.
That's not this policy.
No, this is
Oh,
attached.
Sorry. Okay, so this is correct. This is the first reading of one of the related policies to, this is both
Probably
child
should have
abuse
had that.
and neglect reporting.
The last, the other one was
So-
5144, this was 5141.
Yeah, we're on the five.
Right,
Yeah.
so we'll have another first reading, and then next month in June, we will have the second reading of all of those policies.
Of the two.
Of the physical restraint and seclusion policy, 5144.1, and child abuse or neglect reporting policy, 4250, and sexual discrimination and sexual abuse policy, 5145.5. So there's 3 different policies, which next month will be the final.
Okay.
Right, that's correct. The second reading, okay.
Is there any conversation about it?
This is the one that has the red on it. The policy committee spent 2 different sessions looking over this, and we're in support of this reading. It does expand what we already have and also clarifies it, so we were happy to make the changes that are significant in here. We feel that it's a big improvement over our past policies. A lot of it is connected to legal requirements of schools. This is about the reporting of child abuse or neglect. It's not about whether or not kids are neglected. It's the personnel policy that talks about what teachers and staff have to do to report. So because of that, obviously, there's a lot of legal implications. And so we looked at not only the legal language, but also some best practices and model policies from other locations, as well as the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education policies. So,
Where this is, there are legal implications. Has our attorney taken a look? He's
Yes.
reviewed this
yes.
with the corrections and.
Correct.
He made some recommendations, right?
Mhm.
Things to
Yes.
include.
It's almost like caves.
Yes, it's very much like CABES. We liked CABES policies especially well. We thought that they were both clear without being too narrow in their definition. This is, remember, this is two policies. The first two pages is the personnel one on the child abuse and neglect reporting. And then the second piece is under sexual discrimination and sexual harassment as it relates to students. So again, that's not a personnel piece, that's as it relates to students. So,
The change in number 2 also moves this first one, the child abuse or neglect reporting, out of students, the student section of policies, and into personnel.
that's why the numbering is different.
So when you see the formerly 5141, that's a student section, and we felt like it needed to be in the personnel section, which is the 4000 series.
So we will come back and at next month's meeting have both of these two, plus the one from last month for the final reading, if you have any questions or concerns. Myself, Ann, and Elena are all on the policy committee, as is Phil, so just as a reminder, although that is on our committee sheet that you handed out, thank you.
In a policy like this, are the staff alerted as
Oh,
to
yeah,
this
yes.
policy?
They go through training,
Today or whatever?
Correct.
But isn't that required?
Yeah.
it is,
For
it
each,
is.
teachers are required, I mean, all these people are required.
This one in
Yeah, but I
particular,
don't know if they read the policy, I just, someone probably just mentions the fact.
No,
we
there's
remind them as
actually,
mandated reporters, they have to have professional
But
development.
you
on
don't
this.
give them a copy of it, or?
They might not get a copy of it, but they might get, it's in their handbooks. It's something that the principals actually put in their staff PowerPoint, and staff has to participate in it says may in the policy, we cross it out, it said shall, because we require them to do the online training.
do you have any kind of like quiz afterwards, or?
They do the online one that DCF offers.
Right.
That
Staff
has the
one.
quiz.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
They probably should have a copy of this though, because there are a lot of legal factors that kick in on this. If they don't report, for example.
We go through the regs.
Situation.
That's in the regulations for them, for their reporting requirements, and the paperwork that they have to complete,
Yeah.
and the number of hours that they have to report, and then,
Even more detailed than this.
yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
they're aware of that.
You do it for the substitute too, right?
It's for everybody.
Right. And remember, all of the policies are available online, so even parents who have questions about policies can go online and see what our policies are. So the teachers have that, even if don't have the paper, they can always go online and look this up.
Well, I'm sure the policy committee reads them all, I don't know.
We read them not only
That's
once,
what-
but
that's
twice,
an
and looked at them
amendment,
and wordsmithed it all
Because they do.
together.
Now, Billy,
It
with
was
Doing an excellent
teachers,
job.
we have our unions too, that they make it very clear that's something important that we have to.
Yeah.
This is when you have to
It's
know.
pressed upon us that, yes, you have to pay attention to that.
Okay, so that's not something we're gonna vote on tonight, we'll save that for next month. Next up is the IT support.
So as you know, we did not renew the contract with Custom Computers, who we've been working with for the last few years. And I had mentioned this, I met with the finance committee about this, and mentioned that we had met with a company, Novus Insight. They are on the state bid list. This is a hard company to find, because we have such a vast, group of needs between, this company has to help the town, this company has to help staff in the buildings, they have to do state reporting, there's a lot of things. So there's not a lot of companies out there that do that type of work. This company actually has someone on staff for Power School, and so they're a full-service IT company, and we believe that this is the company that can meet our needs. This is how our staff, if they have a problem, they have a ticketing system, and basically they would complete a ticket. If they have something they need fixed for their laptop or whatever it is, email, and they can remote into their computer, and they could actually take over Katie's computer right now because they would have a program on it. So there's a lot that they're required to do. They oversee our servers, they, email, you name it, basically technology related, they do it. The big changes here, this company is actually a subsidiary of a nonprofit. They don't sell products, they sell service. So if we need to buy a server, they're not selling us their server and marking it up. They'll make recommendations to us and say, here's 5 different companies that sell servers, here's the pros and cons of each. It's very helpful. So that was a positive to us because that was something that we ran into that we struggled with a prior company. We spoke to several people that are using Novus Insight. Hebert and Columbia are both using them, whether it's on the town or the school side, and they were very satisfied. There's a $13,000 setup fee, and that setup fee is basically to come in and open up all of these cabinets, all the servers, do a full evaluation of what we have, which is a ton of work. I have shown them what we expect as far as the binder we got from MCOR, which is our, our facilities folks that they put together that binder for us. This company said, we can easily do that. And so they would monitor everything. It's a 1-year contract. It is a little bit higher than what the prior company had, but we believe like this is going to be a better service for us. The other company was just not meeting our needs. The interesting thing about this contract is they really tried to talk us out of the amount of service that we thought we needed. We've had 1.4 people from our prior company on site, and they basically said, look, if you have a good ticketing system, we should be able to fix 95% of your problems remotely from they have an office in East Hartford. And so they were really trying to convince us down to, you normally don't hire someone with a ticketing system and have someone on site. And we said, that's going to be really hard for staff to swallow, and we're a little uncomfortable with that as well. So they actually wrote their contract for us. They're flexible. So they gave us, if you have 3 days a week of on-site service, here's your price. Plus 1 day of Power School per week. So you basically have 4 people minimum. Up to 4 days minimum.
Okay.
Sorry, did I say people?
You
Sorry.
said 4 people.
4 days minimum per week. Up to, hey, you have something going on, you could have 5 days a week plus an additional Power School person 1 day a week. But they will do that month by month for us. And they know that we didn't budget the highest amount they had, so they will work with us within that number. And because they're on the state bid list, we don't have to go out to bid with this company. My proposal to Erica was, I think we should bring this to both of our boards, that we both should sign the contract because we are both, our policy is a little bit different than hers, but that both boards should vote on it and approve it. This is, we have some really, really strong references on this group, and we have really high expectations. And we gave them some examples of some of the struggles that we've had. And based upon their response, we really expect that we're going to see an improved service. They did give us the name of a town, and I can't remember who it was. It wasn't one of the two I called. Who they actually went in and said, look, we've done an evaluation of the number of days that we're working, on site with you guys, and you don't need us this number of days. We're going to reduce your bill. You don't need to go to them. They're going to help you through that process, which we really appreciate because, we need to get out of the business here of being IT directors. We can oversee things, but that's what we're paying them for. So this is more expensive, but we will, even though the total cost is for 5 days a week plus 1 day of Power School, and this includes the $13,000 setup, is $213,000. We budgeted total between Erica at the town and the BOE $169. 3 days a week is $163. That also includes the $13,000 setup. She's going to see if the Board of Finance will approve a prepay of $13,000 to do the setup this year. If you approve it, to get going. But this company has said, look, if you sign our contract, we can bill you in August if you want. My recommendation to you would be, we need this service, you won't survive without this service, and we didn't find any other company that was at this level. So,
Was the 213 the town and the schools, or just?
It's combined,
That's
correct.
combined, okay.
and we still say, it's still the same percentage, we pay 47%, and the town pays 53%, it's just what it's been.
Mhm.
And so, we budgeted total between the two of us $169,000, and our 47% is $79,430. And we, Eric and I fully know, and so does Novus, know that we need to work within the budget that we put in. But based upon their references and knowing that we have the flexibility on a month by month, so that we could adjust, they're fine with it. And that $13,000 setup fee, they also fix things. So if they identify something, obviously within reason, they're not gonna replace a whole infrastructure or something like that. But if they can fix something right then and there, they do it. That's part of the setup fee.
So in order for us to approve this, we don't have any motion pre-prepared for us.
Nope,
We just need to approve our portion of the contract? or
You just need
we
to
approve the contract
for Novus
for
Insight.
Novus Insight, okay.
What's the name of the company?
Novus,
Insight,
Novus?
correct.
Oh, NOV.
Novus Insight.
So do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the IT support contract with Novus Insight for the, for 1 year.
Okay. And is there a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Tracy, thank you, Kiara. Okay, additional questions, comments? Okay, we are moving right along, so we will, any votes in favor of approving the support contract for Novus Insight signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the request for extended leave for childcare.
These must have been flip-flopped on mine.
I already.
Oh, I already missed.
Oh, I ready.
She checked it.
I checked it, sorry. Approve iReady
She's moving
assessment
along.
program.
I'm like, oh, did I miss it?
No, you didn't, sorry, I did a double check.
So Ken did the presentation to you tonight for iReady. We're ready to move on it. It's our recommendation. The program again is $10,200. That includes $3,000 of professional development. STAR right now is $6,110. And Symphony Math was $3,790. It would eliminate both of those. We would be short $300, but I'm not concerned about that. We will definitely be able to cover that in our subscriptions. And so that's the recommendation to go with iReady.
Do I hear a motion from the floor?
Sure, I'll move to approve the subscription to the iReady assessment program.
And is there a second?
Second.
Herb, thank you, Kiara, thank you, Herb. Additional questions on iReady? Okay, all those in favor of approving the iReady assessment program signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? No? Passes unanimously.
We just made Ken's day because he's been wanting this for a while.
There you go.
He has been the leader getting this through, so good work to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now we've caught up to my check marks. The next
Yes.
one is the request for extended leave.
So we don't have a board policy about the Board of Ed approving extended leave, but the WEA contract states that a written request should be submitted to the BOE. We'll fix that in the future because it probably doesn't need to come to you unless it's something really special. It should just come through the superintendent, that's my opinion. We have a letter from Mary DeGostin, and I asked her if I could share this information. She did not need to be here. I invited her, but I told her she did not need to be here. She's a special education teacher at Center School. She's requested a year of leave, and she's due with her second child. She's due in September, and just is asking for the entire year of leave. So, I would support this request and gladly respond to Mary on your behalf. And basically, it's just within the contractual agreement for whatever days she would have or not have. It's unpaid is the way a leave works, unless you have sick days, and so that would be my suggestion.
Is the benefit to the district that then you can hire one person who'd be there for the kids all year as opposed to part-time
Correct.
substitutes in and out?
Correct, and so basically it turns into a wash, because when you hire a long-term sub for the school year, that you better get a better candidate, number one, and number two, you can offer that person benefits. If you can't offer someone that comes in for 4 months benefits, they have to be there for the full year.
So there is
So,
a benefit to the district
there
as
is.
well? Okay.
Now, is she gonna get benefits from this for you?
She does not get benefits during that period of time. She could pay it if she wanted to, but she would not.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve a request for the extended leave for child rearing for,
Mary Goss?
thank you, sir,
Mhm.
for the 2019-2020 school year.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Ann. Additional questions, thoughts?
Congratulations.
Okay, it's contingent on sending baby photos to the Board of Ed so we can see the baby.
Vote. I missed
Okay,
it.
we did not vote yet.
She would gladly do that.
Is she obligated to return at the end of the year?
She's not obligated to return, but she has as long as she has a position based upon seniority when she comes back. Yes.
Okay. Okay, seeing no more questions, all those in favor of approving the employee request for extended leave for this next school year signify by saying aye. Aye. Abstentions, nays, passes unanimously. Okay, budget adjustments for 2019-2020.
Here's your best news of the day. So after going out to bid, and I will tell you that the insurance process really drives me crazy because of where it falls in our budgeting process. It's really frustrating. It's so much further along, and we're still negotiating back and forth well before the number goes to the town. So it's a little frustrating from a budgeting process, but this one turns out in your favor, because after all this negotiating and applying for state insurance program for one of our unions, we made a move, and I've notified the unions that we're looking to change providers for dental and life insurance. We have a huge savings in our insurance costs for 19 and 20. We ended our negotiations with Connecticut at 2%, a 2% increase. And the reason why is because they found out we were trying to send a group out, and they were worried they were going to lose our business. And so they said, you've been a good customer. They came back at 2%. We were told before that, the number before that was 14.5, that it wouldn't be higher than that.
Right,
So
it started at 15 and went down to
Huge.
14.5.
Started at 20.
Oh, okay.
it started at 20. So that's a huge.
What a racket.
It's frustrating. And you know what's interesting though, Kiara, as I met with other superintendents, and it's the yo-yos all over the place, because some people are getting huge increases. And so
We just
it
got
just,
lucky this year.
I do think so. I think the combination of going out when they saw us looking to the state insurance plan, I think they got real nervous. And our brokers did a really good job. We communicate with them often. And our brokers did a really good job letting people know that, look, we're looking at this. They are looking at leaving you. You need to make sure you take care of them. We also had a 13% decrease in our dental insurance, because we changed from, we're looking to change from Guardian to MetLife. Same benefit package, there's actually more providers of MetLife in this area. And so that was an $11,400 savings in dental insurance. Not a huge chunk in $8 million budget, but we're gonna take it. And then we also changed life insurance providers for a savings of $2,400. Again, not a huge chunk of money, but when you add them all together, it adds up to be a lot. So the town approved the budget at the referendum, and the Board of Finance had adjusted you from a 5.6 to a 4.67% increase. The difference between your approved budget and the Board of Finance's budget was $78,022. The savings in the medical insurance covers that amount. And it even leaves, yeah, it even leaves you
That's
some
great.
money to cover, so you have the contractual, but I didn't know how to pay some people that are retiring this year. It would have to come out of next year. Some people that are retiring that have payouts. We didn't have money to pay out. So the remainder of that money, I've talked to Donna, she said would go towards those
Which is how
payouts.
much?
Huh?
How much?
I don't have the numbers yet because it's still going based upon their days.
That's wonderful.
So it is huge. I think we dodged what could have been a big change in programs. I wouldn't anticipate a 2% increase every year
How
because
long have we had Connecticut?
a few years now, because it was Blue Cross before that, I believe. It's been a while.
Because I know, like, at Region 19, they have Blue Cross, they've fed consistently around 2% increases over the years.
Depends on your group.
Right, they said though that they have,
Are they self-insured?
no, what do you mean, oh, they have Blue Cross.
You can have Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Oh, then I don't know.
I think
I don't know.
Mansfield's self-insured. I don't know
Did-
if they're in.
Yeah, Stafford's self-insured and they've had zeros for years, but you have to put a lot of money in to be self-insured. You have to have enough to cover your,
And you have to keep your fingers crossed that nothing bad
That's
happens to any
correct.
of your staff, so.
that's correct. So that's the big news. So obviously, my recommendation at this point would be leave it alone, leave what where you left it, what you decided on at that number is, unless you want to do something different, you could leave it alone.
But we, the way it looked in the end is we had reduction in positions. They're put back in again based on
We
this.
didn't reduce any, we
Right.
had, that was the bottom line. We
Those
never
ones.
went back up and changed our numbers.
Right,
So what's gonna happen is in that original budget, the only line that's gonna be different is gonna be the insurance line.
excellent.
So,
And, we would have made a different choice if we didn't have the savings, then we might have had to do one of those.
right, right.
That's
So,
good.
do we need to vote on the new insurance line? Like,
No,
do we
because
need
what
to-
you'll do is, we'll come
We can take-
September, when we need to do transfers, depending on staffing, if staff leaves, comes and goes, we'll do it at that point in time.
Okay,
Sounds good.
that sounds good. Next is the school facility survey.
All right, what I thought would be a simple mailer has turned into quite a challenge, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not quite sure we should do a mailer. So I looked at the mailer that Mansfield sent out. They sent the mailer to 6,400 households. They received 310 responses. A
Really?
third of those responses came from families with students in the Mansfield schools. I don't know it's worth us spending $1,000 to do a mailer for those types of numbers, if we got those types of numbers. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was comparing this to our voter turnout and going, I don't wanna spend money to get nothing back for it at this point in time.
I'm just so surprised because this is such a,
It
this
is.
is as an impact, big time impact on our lives and
I think
I
I'd
can
rather
see the
do,
budget referendum not being anything, but
yeah, I don't know, I think I'd rather do paper surveys in specific locations. I looked at, I have survey questions, and I looked at a survey, and this one was a bigger district, Green Bay Area Public School District did a survey that was very well done. By the way, many of these places hire companies just to do this specific piece. But they did a really good survey, but it's pages and pages long. And so my concern is if you try and do it on a mailer, the person completing the survey has to have enough information to answer those questions. And you really only have one side of a mailer. The Board of Finance did a mailer, do you remember with the teacher retirement thing when they added the 600,000? And they did a mailer to 3,000 postcards, 6 by 12, and it cost $920.
So we can't even really get any questions or anything on it.
That's the point. And so if you consider, if you want to put in postage to send it back, you double your cost, maybe you get more back. But I really do think you're looking at a survey that's a little bit more in depth. And, we had someone that was talking about ranking 100 different priorities. I think 100 is a little excessive. This is the person that was at the community engagement. But people ranked in one of the surveys that I found, physical facility and location, and then you rank, how important is energy efficiency, field space, size that meets all the needs, meaning special education, art, music, full-day kindergarten, library, gym, prepares the town for future growth or decline, near the center of town, aesthetically pleasing, technology, and then they go into education priorities. Rank these. Where do you put these in your priorities? And then cost priorities. I think you have to put in the Friar study in. So, and that's just my front page. I have a whole second page here. So I think you can decide if you want to do a mailer. I think when we got the data from Mansfield, I was really disappointed what came back.
I
Do
think
a
that,
mailer though, you have to have a follow-up too, maybe two.
yeah.
You get 300 back the first time, follow-up, you might get another 100 or another 50 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Are you thinking that we would do this as an online survey and send it out via the backpack? And
Both.
then we could put up papers in flyers, places saying,
Drop
go
locations.
to Willington School Building dot Bitly or
Library.
something that, so, but what I'm saying is that if we had something that people could find, and so the process would be just that we would have to spend a little bit more energy directing people to an online survey.
I think I'd rather have face-to-face and if I say to someone, hey, there's a survey here for you, we want your input, I think that has more power than if you just open your mailbox and go, what junk mail do I have today? Then you have to complete it. So if I do a presentation at the senior center and I can use other people to help get the word out, I think that's the point. So you have a paper survey, you do a Google survey, any paper surveys that come in, you just enter in, but you find as many different avenues to get the word out as possible. Might you have repeats? Yeah, you might. But I don't know.
Could we, does it look like you can fit the survey on one page front and back? That's what you're just saying?
Yes.
So if we did something like that and we put a stack of them next to a box that said, put your survey here, we can put one in the post office maybe, one in the library, and
Correct.
one someplace, one in the senior center, for a short period of time, 2 weeks or so. And we can also have those surveys with us if we're doing the things, the community engagement conversations that the board's doing, and that anybody who comes out or that we see could participate in that as well.
The other piece that would really shorten the survey, and I think you need to really consider, maybe sooner than later, listening to people talk at the community engagement events. I think some people have already said there are a few options in there that just make absolutely no sense to them, and they would like to cross them off now. I don't know if that's true or not, but my sense is if you had a survey with all of the options on it, it's a little more confusing. If you limit your options, if you could rule some of those, and maybe you're just looking at purely by price, or I don't believe you can demo Hall School, so does that option come off the table? I think it's option 3. Should it even be there? Because I don't believe they would want us to do that. So if you can eliminate some of those options and really send a survey that's a little more targeted, I will tell you that that is the survey that I saw that was very targeted. What they asked questions like, I would vote yes on a referendum question if I felt it were the correct solution to Baird Elementary School. And strongly agree, disagree,
And that's not even with a dollar amount or explaining what the option is.
This
It's
was
just
not about dollar amount, so
interesting.
it was interesting. And I think some of the questions, you could ask a question like, I would support moving all of our students into one preschool through 8th grade building. That's probably important information for you to get. Yeah, people are interested in that. If people said no to that, well,
That's
then you
there
need
are
to-
options that don't work, right?
right, you need to determine, I would only support performing the minimum needed building maintenance projects, no renovation or new school building. That's your CIP project, the first option. So,
And I think also it's just the difference between renovating versus building a new building. Should be in there because.
well, it would be, correct, yes,
We have to
yes.
cover all of the options
Right.
in a simplified way, not giving.
Right.
them
That's
the-
correct, and that's where I feel like you could really, if you could eliminate some of the options, and I don't know how quickly the board is interested in doing that, it might allow you to create a better survey and get better data.
When, can't remember the timeline.
The next community engagement is, we said May, I believe. The next community engagement is Saturday. How many people have we, I'd say we're probably at 40 people that have heard the presentation. I told Michelle, I'm going to actually voice over the PowerPoint and post that so they can basically hear my presentation online if they want to do it at their own leisure. How exciting that is to listen to me.
Phil, could you send that home in the backpacks when it's
The
completed?
survey?
Oh, yeah.
No, the video.
Oh, yeah, the link
The
to
link
it?
to the
Absolutely,
video,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then
But
maybe.
we have to advertise that.
Yeah, maybe
But
put
we can sign
that
it
up.
on the town email too, right?
Yeah, it's only a couple hundred people that sign up.
Really?
I-
I can't believe that.
I'm gonna get, I'm gonna ask
Really?
for a flyer for the town side, because I think it will help get the word out too, to our parents, because will they then say, hey, you should sign up for town email so you know what's going on. There was a lot of people that said they didn't know there was a vote, and it's just, I don't know, I have a hard time with that, because there's a lot of things that went out.
So if you were to put the video up and then let a couple weeks go by, maybe put it up a couple weeks in a row, and then do the survey after that, so you're giving the people who did not attend the community engagements a chance to have a chance to see it.
I think you have to do the survey before the end of school.
Yes, yeah.
So we wouldn't have a couple of weeks for both. If this one is on the 22nd, the survey should really be out by June 1st at the latest,
Yeah,
because school's out 2 weeks after that.
and that
So-
would give you a chance to post the survey twice.
Right.
Yeah.
And people, yeah, we could link on the survey, you know, if you want more information, here's the link to the video.
So when do you want us, then we should do that now, to eliminate the options, because
I agree.
when are we gonna do it?
Well, and how is this survey going to be developed? Is the board
No,
forming
no,
it, or
this
is
is, that's more involved
This is
than we
Bill's.
need to be.
Yeah.
But are you thinking that the survey would actually list different options and ask them to rank them?
I think if you can provide information, I think from a price standpoint, when you start looking at the options, right, and you look at the bonding, and the option that is to build 2 brand-new buildings separate, you don't have the savings of the $500,000, and you're looking at $27 million to the town. I'm gonna say there's a lot of people in town that are gonna say, that's not a good option, why are you even considering that, it's too expensive. I think once you
That's the one
take
for 2 brand new buildings.
on their current
On their
sites,
current
right?
sites.
And so, and you're eliminating, you know, whole school, you're demolishing it. I think
Which
when
we
you,
probably couldn't do it.
so, right, when you take some of those factors into consideration, that's where I think you could get into some of the more specifics of, would you rather see a renovation done or a brand new building if these, you know, if these were the price tags? You could start getting into that.
So which options are there that we should take out? I don't have the.
I think it's just the build 2 brand new schools and demolish the old schools on
That's
the
the only
current sites.
5 options.
You could also and again, I'm not telling you what to do, you have to determine it, but I think it's 19 million to renovate to new hall school and center school when you could build a brand new, go to 1 building for 18 million.
Yes.
So we-
That, again, to me, you're getting more value from the state. I just don't know that that's an option that would make long-term sense,
But
because
we
you
heard
still
from
have.
people saying that there were too many options, that we shouldn't
Yeah.
bother us, so.
And that's the only other thing I can think of, is the reason, one of the pros of doing the survey now and putting in, hey, here are the options, what would you rule out? What would you take out? Does that help? I don't know.
Would we want to keep in the CIP option?
That's up
I
to
mean,
you.
I don't, but.
I think there are people who feel
Oh, yeah.
strongly, I don't think that's off the table. I
Okay.
think the one for the 28 million or 27 million is the one that has more, it's more than just the price tag that makes it unfeasible.
Right.
I think that all the other ones, you might want to ask kind of, which do you prefer
So
questions?
get rid of 2.
Get rid of the one option that is entirely build a brand new
But-
school
But
in
also,
both locations and demolish the existing schools on the same site.
so that's only
We-
one, but there was
that-
another one
Well,
that
so
Phil was saying.
Move everybody to hall could be the other.
No,
renovate
I'm
the
saying,
hall. Believe that.
I'm saying that I think there's only one option that clearly is outside the realm of feasible, in part because we don't think that we could do that at Hall, because
But even
we've
renovating
got,
both as new, it's not.
but my point is that the Hall Foundation has signaled to
Right,
us that we
that's
probably
obviously
can't
one that should
demolish
go
it, so
out.
that's why the one of demolishing the
But
school.
I would think that you wanna take out two, not just
So
one.
we're talking about two different options right now.
Well, it's the same option we're talking about, and the option that she's saying is the one that's to demolish, where you
So why don't we get rid of that
build two
one?
brand-new schools.
Okay, but the 27 million one is the one where we renovate both as new.
Right, we should take
That's
that one
Take
too.
that
So
away.
that's the expensive one, and the other one is demolishing.
What are the two price tags on the demolished versus the renovated new?
Renovate is new is 27 million,
Whole school's expensive.
5, and the other option, when we demolish, replace both schools, demolishing Hall School, for both schools is 19 million,
Those are, I just looked at the
644.
price.
You
Why
put
don't
the
we
price
just
tags,
get rid of
okay,
those?
okay.
And that's where but you need to weigh the pros and cons and say, does this make sense? Do we have enough information? That's not, I can't tell you to do that, I think
I
that's,
kind of feel like,
So can we make a decision now, or do you want us to wait?
that's up to you.
I think we should decide now
We
because
should
the
decide
survey's
now. If
coming
you wanna
out.
do the survey, then
Yeah.
we should decide right now.
The
I'm
way-
gonna be presenting that this Saturday.
I feel like it's early. I feel like
Well,
there's,
then we
like
shouldn't be
there's,
sending out a
there's some
survey.
question. Well, I think that there are, depending on how you word the survey, you can ask a question about,
I
would you
just think
rather
we
have a new
overwhelm
building
people
or a
when we give
renovation?
them
Too many options.
Well, but we're not gonna give them 6, 7 options on the survey and say, which one do you like better? That's not the way to ask the questions.
So we're not gonna give them the options then, you're saying?
That's.
I think that I don't think that anybody, even the people who come to the hour or two presentation are ready to give us information on that. I don't think that's the way to do the survey.
On
I think
six or
you
seven
ask the
options.
survey questions about, do you think would you prefer a brand new school or a renovated school? So that talks about the renovation. Then you ask questions, would you prefer, so you ask about concepts, not about the specific pieces, because it's too detailed, it's too much information. I think that the cost one, if all 5 of us were unanimous in support of eliminating 1 or 2 of the options, we could probably do that, but I don't think that's especially fair to Elena and Steph, who are not here, who did not even have that on their agenda, nor are they able to put that forward. So unless
Saturday,
we,
you're
so
still
un-
gonna do the
so
same
unless we were
Okay.
unanimous, I
Alright.
wouldn't take any of them off the table. Unless do you feel differently?
No, that's fine.
What do you guys,
I think we should leave them all
Leave
on
them
the
all?
table
leave them all on the
At this
table
point.
for now?
Well,
until after the survey. At that
Yeah.
So
point.
if we don't put them in
I
the
disagree with
survey,
that. I think we should keep them all on
the
for
presentation.
the presentation and also for the video, probably,
Mhm.
so that everybody's getting exactly the same exposure. But we're
Yeah,
not
we
looking at
can put
what,
out the fact that we're going to eliminate.
well, we're
If-
not.
if
I
you're
think it
interested-
is very safe for us to say publicly, both on the video and in the other meeting, that some of these are much less desirable because of the cost of the one and because of the lack of value that we might get from the other.
Yeah.
But I think that that's not necessarily putting the cart before the horse. We haven't had our full discussions yet about what we like or don't like. We haven't heard from the survey of what people like or don't like. And if we're not in the survey saying, here are the 7 options,
Right, as long as we
please.
don't do that in the survey,
Yeah.
that's fine. But if we're put in, I thought that would be too much, but if we don't put them in, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, the other option you could do is if you want to do, I would do the last community engagement that's scheduled. I probably could sneak in another one. I would have the Memorial Day one. I could probably sneak in the senior center. If you did a special meeting, the last week of May, late,
Mhm.
or the really early, I don't even know what day June 1st is, but, so that then if you were gonna eliminate, I could then turn the survey right around and get the survey out prior to the end of school, and at least people have time to do the survey. But you could post it as a special meeting and say, the Board of Education will be considering eliminating, options from the facility study based upon feedback. And then from there, you could go to your roundtable discussions. You could go into your summer knowing you've already eliminated some options based upon just feedback and maybe sticker shock, I don't know.
I do think it's a good idea to eventually eliminate some. I'm not saying that I'm against that approach altogether. I
Right,
just
but
think that
They should be
The
eliminated
survey
before the roundtable now. because
yeah,
what's
and I think the
point of
survey is
talking
not
about it?
dependent upon it. I don't think you should write the survey questions being dependent upon it, because I think that's too detailed information for what, you don't want to have to explain everything. You don't want people to have to go to Fryer to vote on the survey.
Right.
This should be self-contained, they should be able to answer 10 questions about, do you prefer renovation or new? Do you prefer all the kids in one school or keeping 2 schools? You want some general information, would you prefer?
So are you saying wait or don't wait?
I'm saying, don't wait, do the survey anyway.
Okay. Is
And I'm
that-
saying that if we
Where
want to
was that?
include in our June meeting, the taking some off the table, or have a special meeting, I'm okay with that.
The 1st is a Saturday, June 1st is a Saturday, and,
I'm okay with doing that, I wanted the
Is
feedback on the
Monday.
board, because I was really, the mailer to me, I saw those numbers and said, it's not worth the money. So if you want me to go ahead with the survey, it'll be more general. They'll still have the information, they'll get the information, the senior center Willington Day, they'll still have this Saturday. And then if you wanted to, I'll have that on the agenda to consider eliminating options on the June, if you're ready. If you're not ready, then you're not ready, that's okay.
I think we're ready to have a piece of that conversation.
Okay, so I will put that,
Because
yeah.
we're not saying that we're
Because that's what people
picking
were
one,
saying.
it's that
Right.
we're eliminating the most, far extreme ones.
And you have to have your pros and cons. I'm trying to stay in the middle and not give you pros and cons,
Right.
because my pros and cons can be
And I think that
seen
has to be
as.
done as a full
or-
discussion.
Yep,
I have a suggestion.
You have to
though.
recuse yourself.
Is it, I think that if we put all the options on the survey, it would get too confusing. I almost would like to eliminate some of the obvious negative ones before the survey. Could we do an online vote with that people that are not?
No,
No.
and not on something this important, and I
Okay.
don't think we can do that anyway. But
Okay.
the option with this is, I think it has to do with the way we're conceptualizing the survey.
Mhm.
I'm not conceptualizing the survey where we're going to ask any
To
questions
listen.
about option 1 versus option 2.
Okay.
I think we have to describe it as, the difference between option 1 and option 2 might be, or whatever the numbers are, is 1 is renovation and 1 is new. You have to use regular language. You can't say, go to look at this place and see what
Right.
option 1 is versus option 2. It needs to be very plain language.
if the
And
cost
there's-
of renovation was the same as the cost of a new building, or,
Right. Would you prefer A or B? Right,
Right.
that's exactly it. Yeah. So, and I think you
Okay.
can do that without
I can do
eliminating,
that.
because
I
the
was
survey does not
looking for
have to compare everything to everything else. We're not asking them to make the decision for us. We have to make the decision. This is just some input to help us
Help us
make the
make
the
decision.
mailer was just too short for me, it
Yeah.
was just too,
Yeah.
I don't, it's-
I-
you didn't like my font on that one, you really were not gonna like my font.
Okay, so we're all in agreement with that, and that's
Perfect.
an approach of
Thank you.
both paper and electronic to get it out to as many people as possible in June.
Okay.
Okay, school facility survey. Old business, is there any old business?
Please, no.
There is no old business. And we come to number
Are you
11, our
back? I
favorite
feel
one,
like-
which is present to speak, and we
He's
still
back.
have 2 hardy souls in the audience, even though they're
Ken's
employees
enjoying
of the
some
school
quiet
system.
time from work.
I've gotten a lot.
No one's busting into his office asking questions.
We welcome your comments and questions at this time during the agenda. If you have any, please stand up and state your name for this recording secretary.
Can I stay seated?
I think we can see you above the crowd.
Thanks. Mike Choi, teacher at Hall Memorial School. I just want to thank the board again for all the work that it does. The budget season was long this year, but it looks like we managed to hold on to all of the programs this year, which has been great because there was talk of losing a couple of them, and that was kind of scary for us as teachers and for what we would see the loss in the students' lives as well. And then thank you for approving the iReady program. There's been a lot of talk throughout the staff as well, just kind of trying to see what we could do to better help our students and get some more rich data. So thank you for approving that, and thank you to the principal for making a great presentation about that as well.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate having public to comment. Thank you for being here and for your dedication.
You got it.
Okay, number 12, board comments. So, last time we started here, Kiara, we're gonna start with you tonight and go around, because you don't get to go first too often.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the end of the year concerts, ice cream socials, and thank you, Ken, for the presentation and for all of your film for the facilities. It's been good.
I would like to say thank you to all the people who did activities for the children for No Screen Week. I attended a couple with my granddaughter and they were really fun. I went to the frisbee. So thank you so much to all those folks that came in after time too. We also went to the book fair. So thanks to everyone who helped out with that.
Tracy?
Just thank you to Ken for the thoroughness of your study to determine which was the best program. And also to you and Katie for bringing the Trout program to the school. As a parent of a 7th grader, we've heard a lot about it all year. It's really been a great learning experience, down to, I knew how to change that fish tank and those boys didn't believe me. So, just, it's really neat to watch them from beginning to end the process.
Kurt?
I want to thank Phil for all the information. There's a lot of work in on this agenda.
It was a long agenda.
We
I
covered a lot
apologize.
of ground and hopefully most of it will be successful. And also, Ken's presentation was excellent. And I look forward to seeing what the impact will be on the curriculum for the students' work.
Great.
And I'm sure he'll come back at some point and give us an assessment.
An assessment of the assessment.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to add, please let us know when you're going to do the trout release,
Oh, I will.
because I'm sure we'd like to know, so as far ahead
It's gonna
in
be during the
advance that we
day,
can do it.
Yes. We can save one fish for you.
We're gonna film it.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
we'll
can
take
work
all
on
the
it.
pictures, we'll
That's
have
fair.
everything.
Okay, I would like to then have a motion to move into executive session to discuss potential properties for a new school site if necessary. And invite the superintendent to join us.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to move into executive session
Okay.
to, what are we going to do?
To discuss potential properties.
And also I want to invite the superintendent to the executive session.
Okay. And is there a second?
I second.
Kiara, thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Signify by saying aye.
Fine.
Okay. Abstentions? Nays? No? Okay, so approved. Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
I have to ask.
Okay.
Can I take a second break?
Executive session at 9:15.
Thank you.
Huh?
So all we need to do is keep track of the time that we're done.